Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today, I am talking about the new Netflix series, Adolescence. And I didn't really know about this series until a few days ago. And Brittany on our team brought it up and said that everyone's talking about it, everyone's watching it. It's something that we all have to watch. And that even Dr. Shafali, like all of her reels right now are about adolescence. And I was like, oh, this is like going to be a really big teaching moment. I'm so excited. Like, this is going to be so impactful. What is this about? I can't wait to watch it. I literally have already watched the 4 episodes. And by the way, I don't watch a lot of TV. I finished last night, and the immediate thing that came to my head was, I don't get it. And I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be brutally honest in this podcast. And this may be so brutally honest that it really gives you like a feeling of being called out or like a jab or feeling like I don't get it. I am totally projecting as to the potential emotions you could feel if this strikes a nerve with you. And what I would say to that is if this podcast strikes a nerve with you, please, that's more of a reason to listen. Like more of a reason to listen. I'm going to say things and probably call people out because like I said, it's 2025 and I am on a roll going big and saying the things more and more of what I feel need to be said. So what Brittany said, let me go back to it. What Brittany said is that even Dr. Shafali is posting reels about this series. And I went to her reels and I saw them, and she is utilizing this Netflix series, discussing this Netflix series to say that there is such a crisis with boys and you should definitely buy her next course. That's kind of how she ends it. This is a smart marketing scheme because everyone's talking about it right now. However, I don't think that there is just a big issue. I don't think that there is like an emergency with boys right now. I think there's an emergency with parenting, an emergency with what we are and are not allowing our children to do. And that means it includes females. Now, let's talk about this series. There are 4 shows. The first one, it starts with like them barging into this home and grabbing this kid who is being arrested for murder of a girl in his class. It literally shows you him being booked, and it's like you're literally living this story in real time from episode to episode. So things to me kind of drag. The first episode was about him getting processed and into jail. The second episode was kind of giving more backstory and kind of showing the school and things like that. The school did not seem like there was many boundaries. The school did not seem like they had their shit together. There was a fight that broke out. They were screaming at the school. It just didn't seem like a very good place to have your children. The third episode was extremely interesting. It was mostly an interview with an external psychologist or some kind of therapist who was giving her own opinion on if she felt that he understood what was going on and what was happening. I think that this particular episode was probably my favorite because it demonstrated to me how mature this child was versus his age and how he portrayed himself and the rage that he had and the feelings and emotions inside and the ability to worry about his own self-worth and think that everyone around him is manipulating him and the anger inside of him and like and on and on and on and on and on. His language he used was so far above what he should be using for 13 in terms of how he cursed and screamed and went off on this woman. That demonstrated a boy who was very much struggling. And I think that that was a really great thing to be able to see. The fourth and final one was kind of about how the family was trying to get on without their son in the home and how they were basically being bullied because of something that their son did. And their son at the end of it says, I think I'm going to change my plea to guilty. And I would say the final 10 minutes of this Netflix series are probably the most important because the mom and dad have a dialogue about they didn't know they could have done more. They felt like the husband said that his dad, let me rephrase that. The husband said that growing up, his dad would just beat the shit out of him, and he chose not to do that. And so what they did was the opposite, which is give him the freedom. And so they said that he would get home from school, go up to his room, and put on his headphones and play the video games. And she said that she would tell him to go to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning. His light would still be on. And she thinks that he turned his light out, but he didn't get off. And they decide that they think they could have done better. And it literally ends with the dad in the son's room, like looking at the little stuffed animal, crying, saying, "I'm sorry, son." And literally, this is how the series ends. And for those of you who haven't watched it, so sorry. But there's a point to why I'm sharing all of that with you. It is because it ended and I was like, I don't fucking understand. Like, why is this so profound? Why are there so many ahas for individuals watching this? Why is this being talked about so much? To me, this is like, well, yeah, no shit. And I am so sorry if that sounds, it's not egotistical. It's just, that's just what came out. It was just like, well, yeah, no shit. If you put a child in their room with a computer and headphones, let them have all the freedom in the world, give them a phone, and let them be on Instagram at that age, like, yeah, no shit. Like, don't we already all know this? Like, or is this still news to some people? Right. And that's why I say, like, if you've watched this and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize, like, this is what can happen if I give the phone and the Instagram and the computer and the headphones and the freedom, like, this is what can happen. Wow, I need to shift and change. I am really, really sorry if you watch this and you recognize that and I'm belittling those aha things for you. That is not my intent of this. I am just giving you my own response as to, like, yeah, like, I learned nothing new, kind of. And that's not ego at all. It's just like, I don't get what the buzz is. I really don't get it. My children do not have iPads. My children are allowed to watch TV, but I do not give them iPads unless we're on a plane or on a road trip. And sometimes, maybe like once a year on a vacation, usually when we're at the beach, we let them have it. But that's basically it. Like, there is no need for it. Charlie comes home from school telling me that he's played Minecraft. And I'm like, how are you able to do that? Well, if we behave the whole day, then like at 10 minutes at the end, I'm like, you should not be playing Minecraft at school. Like, school is for school. So that was news to me. He always says that he Googles things at school on his computer. And I was like, oh, where'd you learn that? Google. How, like, when did you have the time? Well, we had 10 minutes before we switched to so-and-so's classroom. Okay. Look, they're getting the freedom enough at school. They are very slowly getting more and more freedom. And Charlie is 11. He's in 4th grade. So I'm going to keep the reins going at home in terms of what I feel is appropriate or not in the world of social media. I think that if you have a child who is struggling, and if you have a child who is so headstrong, and if you have a child who is running the roost and controlling the narrative, or you're walking on eggshells around your child, you have 2 choices, basically. The first choice is you're so fucking exhausted that you don't have the energy to do it. And so you let your child always win. And they grow up knowing that they can be so calculating that they know what they need to do to get away with what they want and what they need, or to get the freedom that they long for. Or you can create structure, add more to your plate, question your boundaries in terms of how hard you're being on your child, giving them constant feedback, pushing them to continue showing up for themselves, leveling up for themselves. Always keep it unpredictable and keep them on their toes to know that you are the boss, to know that you are the one driving the ship. Right? These parents, granted, like their line, or like their storyline is, we thought we did, like we thought we didn't know, like we didn't know. And to me, I'm like, how do you not fucking know? Like, how do you not know that that is not going to be healthy? Like, how do you not know? Right? Your children should not have any devices in their rooms. None. If they are on their phones, if they're old enough to have a phone, my recommendation to you is that they can have their phone, but they can have it everywhere but their bedroom. Same with a TV, same with an iPad. That way it keeps them out within your space, in your livelihood, in your community, so you can keep an eye on what's going on, as well as all those tracking apps and all the different things. But the freedom is what is causing the ability to explore, with no boundaries. And when we explore with no boundaries, we get to places where we probably shouldn't get to, or we may not want our children to get to, or explore in chats and sites and this and that. Like they get to where we're not quite ready for them to get to because they're that effing smart. They are. Okay. Now I'm going to bring up something that I've already brought up before, which is the nurturing side of parenting and the boundary side of parenting. I cannot stress enough to you that us in particular, like you, the person who's listening to this, what you have been fed is completely different what we learned growing up. And so there is so much guilt and shame and pressure on us to show up and be the kind, gentle-hearted parent who loves their children, lets them have emotions and feelings, and lets them be themselves. And look, that's a lot of what Dr. Shefali says. She believes that in order to allow the child to prosper and grow, they need to be exactly who they were meant to be, rather than boundaries and ripping them down and forcing them into a box and all the different things. The freedom is what gets them into the bad spots. The boundaries and structure is what keeps them within the lines. I'm not saying to not give them freedom so that they can taste what it tastes like, but they have to taste it enough to then want to work hard for you, maintain the boundaries within your home, the things you're requesting, the chores, the this, the that, all those things, so that they can then say, I've earned this. Like, wow, this is awesome. There is like fear-based parenting going on to me right now, which is we want to do better. We want to do different. And the narrative that has been going, especially when my community of age-wise, when we were having kids, it was gentle and conscious parenting and like very crunchy granola, go back to roots and all the different things. And you can read all of gentle parenting's, concepts and see that it has boundaries in it. You can read all of conscious parenting, gentle parenting. You can read all of those things of like what it means. And somewhere in there is boundaries, but it never fucking talks about it. It just doesn't. It ignores those parts of it. And I think that sometimes we, as especially females, have a really, really hard time with those boundaries, because to watch your child be in pain, or to watch your child suffer, or to watch your child have a consequence, or not be able to partake in something or do something that they need to learn from, but it is painful to watch them be uncomfortable and unhappy with the fact that they don't get to do it. That is so fucking hard for us to do. And as females with the gentle and conscious parenting movements, we have really suppressed the male voice, which most of the times the male voice is a little more logic brain, and the male voice is really pushing for those boundaries, because we're going to fuck them up if we give them boundaries. You have to allow them to hear and feel their feelings. I'm going to share with you a story. It's not a very comfortable story for me to share, but I really think it's time that we open up so that you understand like how passionate I am about this. And I'm not going to cry as I say this, but the reason I have such passion for it, and the reason I do so much work and have mentors and continue raising the bar for myself of understanding the brain and what is most important of how to teach my child, is because I have a lot to lose. My children have a 50% higher rate of having depression, anxiety, and going down the same road as Jonathan. So for me, I can't get this wrong. For me, it's not an option, because if I get this wrong, the stakes are way too high for me. And I feel that the stakes are high for everyone, but yet no one really truly realizes that until they find in their child's phone that they've been thinking about hurting themselves, or they find in their child's journal that they, are thinking of ending it all. And I've had clients like this, and I'm not kidding you, that it is completely foreign to them that they ever knew that their child was there. You have to have nurture and boundaries. You have to have both. You absolutely have to have both. What we have started calling it is practical parenting solutions. Okay, so instead of gentle parenting or conscious parenting, we're going to call this practical parenting. That's the lingo that we're going to all start pushing. And that's the lingo that I really feel we should all start enforcing, is practical parenting. And to explain to you, I'm going to give you an example. So one of my kiddos lately has had a lot of freedom because there's been things going on in the business that I haven't been able to attune into, and also spring break and the cruise, and you have so much freedom, all the different things. It's time to rein back in the structure, okay? And this is going to ebb and flow all the time. We're not perfect beings, right? But we had a little bit of a toot and some talking back, and we did it in a few multiple places, and I was not happy, and neither was Carter. And so we are reining things back in. The other night, I pulled up to the driveway and I said, okay, take everything out of the car, water bottles, trash, snack wrappers, anything like that, because it had been a really long day at baseball. One of my children gets out of the car, shuts the door, starts walking to the door. Now, if I'm focusing on a lot of other things and I don't have the emotional capacity, I probably would have let that fly. I have the emotional capacity right now. So I said, hey, what did I just ask you? Right? To me, him hearing what I said, shutting the door and just being like, no, I'm going to go, I'll get that tomorrow. That's a big fuck you to me. That's how I feel. It's a big like, fuck you. I don't really care what you're asking me to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And so I talked to my child about it, and I wasn't so happy. Let's say I had to lay down the law. That was for me like the end of my rope. I was like, that's where we're at. And it is okay to sometimes be at the end of your rope and share from a place of frustration and anger. It is absolutely okay. Now, that probably happened Thursday. Today is Saturday, and we got a natural consequence for that. Now, I took this son to yoga today, and we had a good time. He laid down a lot. He didn't do everything, but every time at the end of yoga, when we're stretching, we hold hands every single time. And that is me knowing that I can enforce boundaries. I can enforce natural consequences because of the boundaries that I place, and still know that my child and I are connected, and he knows that I love him just by that simple handhold. That is the nurture side, right? When we ramp up structure, we have to ramp up nurture. And these are not easy things to do. These are things that take time, energy, and effort. And I have to be honest with you. If your child is the one that's in running the show, if your child is the one you're walking on eggshells around, if your child is the one that's driving you up the wall and you're constantly hearing things from school, or your child is constantly being disrespectful to you or calculating, or if your child is not listening to the direction, like if all these things are going on and you are fucking miserable and exhausted, I want you to reach out. And if this Adolescence Netflix series was like a big wake up call for you and you're like, oh shit, my kid is doing this and you need it fixed, reach out as well, because we've got to do some changes. And those changes aren't easy. Those changes pull at your heartstrings. Those changes are exhausting and tiring. And you need someone to tell you, yes, this is going to be okay. You need someone to remind you when your kid is having a fit because you've pulled all the electronics, but that's the plan we make, or to be able to like get back into reality, whatever the thing is, right? Or to enforce the boundaries, or to have them finally start listening, or for you to be back in control, for you to get your emotional energy back. Like all these things I'm saying, if you are ready to do that, that is going to take not only time, energy, effort, but also someone supporting you along the way, because it is not easy to see your child push, because they're going to push more. They're going to push and push and push to see if they can break you in terms of letting them get back to where they were, right? And that's not so easy to do. So I'm making this one really short, and hopefully I didn't piss you off. Maybe I didn't say all the things, but yeah, I just finished that series and I was like, I don't get it. I know it can happen. It does happen, but I read online. I was like, what's the, like, I literally typed it in. I was like, what are people talking about? Like, why are people talking about this? And someone had like a comment that was like, this will haunt me for the rest of my life. Like with my child, this shit's not going to haunt me because I'm on a good path with my child. It might haunt you if that's where you're at with your child. If you're allowing your child to game all afternoon, or, just be running amok in your house and be the one who's running the show, right? I hope that makes sense. It is not that I'm better. It's not that you suck. It is not that you're a bad parent. It's not any of that. It's not any of that. It's just, where are you at, right? And sometimes it requires you to get support and help. Carter and I both love doing this. I would say that he and I specialize in this, and we've helped many families get back on track. The best part about it is your child is the happiest when they have structure. And I see it in my own kids. They are the happiest, right? So you think they're happy getting all that freedom. You think they're happy when they finally get their way, when they get the extra cookie, whatever it is. But they're actually the happiest when you give them the structure. And then comes the nurture and being proud of them. So take all that for what it's worth. And leave comments. Let me know your thoughts. If you're pissed off at me, I love you. I would love to have more conversations with you about it. DM me if you're like, I am really angry. Like, I want to hear, I want to know. It is okay for us to not have the same opinions. However, what I will say is if you were the one that was like, shit, this could easily happen to my child, that's the ding that you need to probably get some help to change things so that it doesn't end up like that. Because to me, it's like, yeah, no shit, that's why I do things differently. But if you're like, oh shit, that was a very clear indication of what actually can happen if we continue allowing this, right? Like if you got some of those vibes, don't hesitate. Okay, that's all. Bye.